pre-certified dog trainer. So, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your like background. Like what made you decide like I want to be a dog trainer, like this is for me? Because I know you went to college, right? Like you said you went to school, is it in Iowa?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to school for musical theater. So very different than what I'm currently doing. Also thank you for the roses, guys. But so while I was there, I remembered back to one of the other colleges that I toured had a service dog training program that basically the students could volunteer and foster and raise puppies in the beginning stages of becoming service dogs. And so the school that I went to didn't offer that. So I ended up starting up a club just like that at the school I went to.
Oh,
And so I
cool.
got involved with Iowa Service Dogs, which is an amazing nonprofit here in Des Moines, Iowa. So if anyone here is in Iowa or in the Des Moines area, definitely look them up. We actually have an event tomorrow for our annual, it's like our annual celebration of us being an official organization. But so that's tomorrow. But yeah, so I worked with them, and I worked with another organization. And so throughout college, I raised 4 dogs. Only one of them ended up getting placed. But it was really rewarding, and I loved the process. And I never had a dog growing up, and I had like worked at daycares and stuff, so I had interactions with dogs that way. But I think seeing all of the like psychology and science that goes into training dogs just really grabbed my attention. So then when I graduated in December of 2020, I started working as a dog trainer and a dog training apprentice out here in Des Moines. And I really just like submerged myself into learning all more about like proper training techniques and learning theory, and really worked on my technical skills. And it really just kind of blossomed from there. And I still work with service dogs. We should be getting a puppy here in the next year to train, and we're really excited about that. So yeah, it's just it's one of those things that's like um I I like have even like with theater, I never felt like it was something that I was really good at in a term in like in a sense that I was like I want to do this and like I feel like I'm good enough to like make it. Like I really think that I just majored in it in college because I didn't know what else to major in. I didn't
Sure.
know that dogs were like I didn't know that dog training was a job. Like I didn't know that that was an option. Um so I think like when I finally started working in dog training, it like clicked that okay, that's what I want to do. So that's like a long story, but that's the gist of it.
No, that's awesome. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm a nurse and I call myself still of all trades and master of none because I'm a serial hobbyist and like dog behavior has always been like a huge interest of mine. And one of like my dreams and goals is to open up a doggy daycare. Joe, like oh, my son gets so mad because I always mix up Kobe and Joey's names. Kobe, my fur dog, my fur baby, is he went to this fabulous daycare in Orange County and literally like it was better than any child daycare I've ever had my children attend to. And the training was phenomenal. Like, I mean, they would do like holiday grams. It was just like you would get daily report cards. They would send you pictures of their best friends. It was amazing. So that's what I always aspire to do. And like, yeah, sure, it's easy to come up with a business plan, but like one of my biggest things is like providing quality, like training and quality care, right? So like, I'm like, I would have to budget in my head like a whole year's worth of salary for the people that I would hire because and I don't because that field I feel like and you can correct me if I'm wrong is not really regulated. I feel like coming up with that business plan and like what I would actually need or what kind of investors I would need to like provide that. I wouldn't even know because like I know there's a certification out there, the one that you're doing, but like I don't know that most dog trainers have like official certifications or training, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not
Oh,
a
for
highly
sure.
regulated field.
Yeah, it's a very unregulated industry. Like you could wake up tomorrow and call yourself a dog trainer, and a lot of people do that. And you know what? I'm going to be controversial. I'm going to say something kind of controversial. Um, but people who train with aversive techniques, I always say that the tools start where the knowledge ends. And
Right.
so, like people wake up and they call themselves dog trainers and they're using these dated methods that that science has proven that you don't need, like dogs don't necessarily learn that way, and that it's been proven that they learn best with positive reinforcement. So it's like there are all these different methods out there, and I think I said this on our last live that I was like, if I was a dog owner and I was going to the internet for training information, I wouldn't know what to look at, and like because there's just so much out there, and so it's so much. There's a lot of wrong information out there. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so it's really unregulated, and then like kind of going into what you're saying too with like opening a daycare. I think it's really great that you're wanting to incorporate training into it, because from working in a daycare, the first daycare I worked at was phenomenal. Like very um like attentive to everything. And then I worked at a daycare in college that, excuse me, that um they had very little experience, and they were one of those daycares that used spray bottles to get dogs to stop doing things, and that's not doing, like all that's doing is suppressing a behavior and teaching a dog not to do something. So like I like looking back at it, there were dogs that, they'd get in like a little scuffle, or they'd like snarl or growl, and they'd spray them with a spray bottle. And it's like, okay, well, next time the dog feels that way, you know what they're gonna do instead of that behavior? They're gonna bite. They're gonna get in a
Yeah.
fight. They're gonna bite. So
And you're
it's
creating an aversion to water, right? Am I not mistaken? Like that's one of my biggest pet peeves about it.
mm-hmm.
You're instilling fear, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And like it's something I have continued to have to explain to people, is that um especially people who use e-collars, they're like, well, it's just like a beep or like a vibration, and it's like, okay, but if it stops the behavior, that individual dog finds that aversive. So every dog has something different that they find aversive. Like there are some dogs that find the spray bottle aversive. But there are other dogs that you like sprayed at them and they're like, okay, it's
You're like,
playtime, like I'm gonna eat it, so it, like dogs are just like people, that they have their own things that they don't like and that freak them out. And it's just the dog industry, not only dog training, is just very unregulated. And unfortunately, there are a lot of things like daycares and stuff that are run by people who have little to no knowledge of dog psychology and dog behavior. So, yeah.
absolutely. And that's like my thing. Everyone's like, oh, well, there's such a need and like this. I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to just open something up and like just be willy nilly about it. Like, I really want to have someone who has an idea of like what dog behavior is. Because one of the things vets will tell you is like, don't put them in daycare. Like, that is not, it's not recommended because of this accidents, whatever, whatever. And it's again because it's not like, it's not regulated, right?
Mm-hmm.
But no, so I
For
think,
sure.
I think that's why I was drawn to your account, because like you have like a science that backs up. And, at the end of the day, like I know like not one single method works for like all dogs. Like, I mean, it's just like humans, like in society, like, sometimes laws don't or rules don't apply to people and they
Mm-hmm.
obviously like go to jail or whatever or have other, interventions. But for the most part, like immediately going to those kinds of resorts to me is not something that I'm a huge fan on. It's like, they have their own personalities and modalities too. Um, but yeah, no, I'm glad that like you're kind of speaking about it. I'm just pulling up my notes here because I had questions ready. Um, but yeah, like, um, so yeah, if you guys have, so we have kind of like a plan of like what we're going to talk about. But please, if at any point you guys have like a specific question, just put it in the chat. If you are on Emily's live or M's live, I cannot see it. So, she might have to, it may take her a while to like answer your question, but we'll talk it afterwards and make sure that if it wasn't addressed, we can address another time. I think I had one more question regarding that. So like, what made you decide like, okay, I'm going to share this knowledge on social media?
Yeah. Well, so I do, I don't currently train full time, because I have a non-compete with the business I worked with here. And so this is kind of like my outlet to still demonstrate my knowledge and utilize training. But I also have always loved creativity, and I do content creation um, and like marketing and stuff for my full-time job. And so I was like, well, I'll just start social media for my dog, and like I'll do training videos on it, and we'll just go from there. So it's a nice little combination of a bunch of things that I enjoy doing. So yeah.
Well, yeah. So if you guys don't follow her, if you guys are on my live and don't follow her, make sure you do. She always has like great tips, and like I said, like not every type of training is going to resonate with you. I'm a nurse, so I believe in science and dog behavior and all that stuff. But even if that's not your jam, like I feel like there are times where she really talks about things of value that, I mean, you may not have to do like positive reinforcement training completely for your dog because it may not work, or believe in it or whatever. I respect people, whatever, but like, just follow her. You might learn a thing or two. But one of the biggest things that I think always comes up, like when we do lives together, or like when I'm doing lives or you're doing lives, is separation anxiety. So like, I know it's a super, super big topic. Like we're not going to cover all of separation anxiety today, but like, what would you define? Like, how do you identify like, okay, for sure, this is like separation anxiety? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's such a broad term, but it's also very like specific.
For sure. So, kind of like people display anxiety in different ways. And, they have different reactions to it. But so what we consider emotion or separation anxiety is when we call it a CER, which is a conditioned emotional response. So they have an aversive response to their owner leaving or being left alone. So that can be displayed in signs of like urinating or defecating in the house, whining, barking, howling, destruction of stuff that you leave out, any kind of like out of the norm behavior. And I know you have a question like this too that I'll get more into it. But like when Oliver, when I first got him, he would howl. I would put him in his crate and he would howl and scratch to try to get out. And so I actually had to end up putting these like extra little clips on his crate because one time he got the bottom latch out and he got like stuck halfway trying to get out. So yeah, now we have to be extra careful about that. But he doesn't do that anymore, but I just keep it on there just because he's a master escape artist. But he would do that and he would howl to the heavens. And then the one time that he did break out, he peed and had diarrhea all over the room he was in. But some dogs, it's just like a simple thing of like, they just you can like they'll whine or it's not always as extreme as that. So it just varies on a case by case, but the general definition is an aversive reaction to being left alone.
And I think you touched up on a good point that like just like anybody else, like it's not every case is going to be the same. Or not every dog is going to manifest it in the same type of behaviors. Like I currently have 5 dogs. Most of you know that. Like, and we have one dog that passed away about 2 years ago. She was a boxer, and when she was a puppy, like same thing. Like my husband, well, I think we were just dating at the time. My husband had to like put in what do you call it, zip ties on the crate, and then like she would just like go at it with the crate, that she would literally like destroy her face. She would break blinds. She would, we had another boxer that belonged to my stepdaughter. She would escape and she would like to climb on top of the backyard, like the we didn't have a fence, we had like a brick wall or whatever. And then Kobe used to get, when he was by himself, he used to get diarrhea, like not necessarily just when I was gone, but also like it manifested throughout the day. So like it really like, and I would tell, because I'm like, okay, I haven't given him anything different. Like it really was. And for him, what really helped is having Kylie. I know that's not necessarily like fixing the issue, because you know I was dependent on something else, but um, I like that, like you spelled it out like as a, like a, you know, this is the general like definition of it, kind of like how we would describe like diabetes. Like it's the same thing, or general anxiety and humans. Thank you for
Mm-hmm.
joining, Bex Wolf, and hi, Lilo. So, Lilo the Frenchie said, when I first got Lilo, I couldn't leave her in a crate for over 10 minutes or she would poop on herself. So, yeah, kind of like, you know, I think the defecation, or the pooping or the diarrhea, I think, you know, I think for us, like if you think of irritable bowel syndrome, like for those of us that have anxiety or have experience with that, like same thing, like when people are stressed, they get diarrhea. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I know that there's a word that actually Emily taught me yesterday. And what is it, like humanizing dog
Oh,
behaviors?
anthropomorphism.
Yes, it's like humanizing dog behaviors, and she could probably speak to it better than I can. But my point is that like I think that's not necessarily like a good thing, but that's just in my brain. Like that's how I like make sense of it when like, because I know some people are like get frustrated with those types of behaviors, they don't know what to do, but I always try to like think of it as like, okay, so what if it was me, what if it was my child, what if it was like the family member, like the same thing. I mean, our dogs are our family, right? So like how can I make it make sense in my brain is how I see it, not that I'm trying to humanize
Right.
dogs,
Well, and
but
I think so. I think that like humanizing dog behaviors to an extent is like really, I feel like sometimes the only way that people can truly grasp how dogs are feeling. I think the just like the missing step is thinking like first learning about how dogs interpret things and how dogs learn, and figuring out, okay, if I thought this way, how would I interpret it? Because dogs don't think the same way that we do. And also, because I want to go back, I want to like kind of circle back to this too, that you were talking about the comment that said, you know, when they first got the dog that they were pooping in the kennel. This just reminded me of that too. Is that like I think, and I was not as educated as I should have been when I got Oliver. I will be the first to admit that. But I think now, knowing what I know, I think a really crucial step that people skip when they get a dog is doing independence training. So, you know, they can do crate training, which is great. The dog will go in the crate, awesome, but that's just part of it. You don't want your dog to build an association to, okay, well, every time I get put in this crate, mom and dad leave. So, because that's often what happens, and that's what can create separation anxiety. And the not having independence before being put in that scenario is also what goes into it. So, like, I'm in the process of, well, I was in the process and then we had a setback. And so now we're restarting it. But we were in the process of getting Oliver to stay home alone uncrated. And so we're doing independence training with that. So we're just teaching him that it's okay to be alone while mom is still home. So blocking him off in one room while I'm in a different room. And like these kind of steps are really crucial to teaching your dog that, okay, you're going to be fine if you're alone. Like the world's not going to end.
you know, it's funny that you say that, because I literally have been working on like, so normally they would stay in a, at first it was the crate, and then we kind of graduated to this like blocked off area in the kitchen. But I know, like at the end of the day, like most of the time when I'm gone, they've learned to just kind of sleep, right? Like that's what they do. So I'm like, of course they want to be in their bed. Like I would want to be in my bed. So I've started to kind of just leave them in the bedroom, you know, and I block everything off or whatever. But it's funny that you say that, because like those are the things that like I wouldn't even think about. So where I say like, even though positive reinforcement training may not exactly be your specific like go to or what you believe in or whatever, but those kinds of things, like those are just like I think basic solutions to some of our dog behavior, like things that we want to focus on. Because I wouldn't have even thought of that. I'm just like, okay, let's just try it out and see what happens. And I leave, and luckily I think because they have each other it's worked out. But like those are the kinds of things that I think like explaining like the why behind it and the science behind it and like why it is effective in that way is really helpful for people to hear. But yeah, and like I think you touched a bit about it, but the next question was going to be like regarding Oliver and how you dealt with it and experienced it, what you learned along the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when I first got Oliver, so he originally, so he's a rescue. He was surrendered because of his separation anxiety. Actually, is that he was an outdoor dog, and him and his brother were tearing up the yard. And I don't know if the owners I know were older, and so I don't know if it was just that they didn't want to put in the effort. They were too old. They didn't want to take the time. Yada yada yada. Who knows? But basically, they surrendered them because of the separation anxiety. Um,
No.
uh-oh.
Let me show you what they did. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I had to
No,
stop
that's
because
those
this is not my
goofballs.
furniture. Hi, Trish. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I had to remove that from them. They like to
No,
be
as you
disrespectful.
should. As you should. You should not let them continue to do that. But no, so I don't blame you. But yeah, so he was already really, so he already had it bad. And then it made it so much worse because, you know, you are like, imagine you already have abandonment issues and then like you get abandoned again. That's like basically what happened. um,
Yeah.
and so when I then got Oliver, like he was pretty messed up mentally. And so I like shit you not, I could not even leave. I was in college at the time, and so I had like his crate in my bedroom. I could not leave my bedroom without him howling and trying to break out of his crate. So it was very serious, and it not easy. So yeah, so we did that. So that happened. Sorry, I just like lost my train of thought. It went bye bye. Anyway, so yeah, so we did that. So we started working on crate training and really building a solid foundation with a positive association for being in the crate. So getting his meals in the crate, getting Kongs every time he went into the crate, spending time in the crate while I was home, just in bed next to him, having him in the crate when I was in the next room, and slowly transitioning to longer times of being away with a further proximity of being away. So a lot of combination of that. And something I also really want to add in is that we used trazodone. We used medication. I think this is such like a frowned upon thing in the dog training community, and I have no idea why. Like humans use medication to help regulate themselves. Why can't dogs do the same thing? I wasn't even able to start training with Oliver with separation anxiety until he was on this medication because it allowed him to get to a level of arousal that he wouldn't otherwise be able to get to. So with a combination of all of those things, and then independence training as well, we got to the point that now he's able to be home alone and in the crate, which honestly, like back when we were at the point where he was home alone uncrated, um, you know, we were still working our way up to him being super comfortable, but my phone was just like 20% battery. But most of the time, like I have a Furbo, and so I was able to watch him. Most of the time, he would just go into his crate, and I think that's another like stigma in the dog owner community is that like putting your dog in a crate is a bad thing. You're putting them in jail, and it's like no, it's not jail. It's their bedroom. Like that is Oliver's
Yeah.
bed. That is his space. He likes to go in there, and I think that's a really common misconception with dog owners and crates for some reason.
I agree. And before we continue, I'm going to say thank you, Bucks, Titan, well, Trish, and Kimba, and thanks for joining. And thank you guys for the gifts. If you guys don't follow Oliver the Good Boy, she has tons of good info. And like I said before, like even if like, oh, and Lucifer the Shepherd, and I think other people sent me gifts. If you even if you think that positive reinforcement training isn't necessarily for you or your dogs, like I think there are a lot of valuable things that like come out of this. Like the stigma behind medication, I think is super important to talk about because, it's kind of like, well, when we sedate them after having or getting neutered or spayed or any type of like post-operative care, like we do it to make it safe for them. And just like you and I would need like anxiety medication or whatever, or cope with anxiety or anything else in different ways. I think it's good to remember that sometimes medication is necessary. It's there to help us. Like it's there to be a tool and not to, of course, replace training, replace that love, replace that, working of the fear of abandonment, but it's there to use as a tool to improve matters, right? So like I definitely agree. If you guys have any questions so far, please feel free to like just type it in the chat. I'm trying to keep up and not interrupt Em at the same time, but I am reading your comments. So thank you guys for joining. And Connie, I don't know. I'm pretty sure I invited Connie, but by all means, if I didn't share it with people. One time I shared my event with several people and I got put in message jail, which I thought was hilarious. I think it was for like Kobe's birthday event, and it was like, you're in message jail. You can no longer answer. But yeah, thank you guys for joining. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions so far, please by all means just type it in the chat. But was there anything else you think would be valuable to add to that, or I don't know if I cut you off. Sorry.
No, I think that was pretty much the general gist of it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. So, okay, got it. Sorry, I'm having like, woo. And I've been having trouble sleeping, and my dogs have been acting like crazy. So, anyway, Connie, so I hear that you possibly had some questions regarding separation anxiety. So I just want to give you the opportunity because we're technically co-hosting, so we can't read each other's like comments. So Em won't be able to see our questions. I'm happy to pass it along if you guys have any particular questions. But anyway, so unless you guys have any other questions regarding separation anxiety, we can move on to a different topic. Or is there anything else you wanted to say? I think we covered the gist of it. And if you guys have questions too, like we can talk about some things more specific at a later date and time. So the next thing I wanted to kind of bring up and thought it would be a great idea to talk about was body language in dogs. And again, this is just the science behind it, not necessarily training specific, but just kind of what are some key things that you should know about your dog's body language? Or so I don't know where you want to go with that. We had an interesting conversation about licking yesterday.
Yes, and I've got my book here with me, guys. So this is the book I'm currently reading to train for my dog training certification exam. But we were talking about this yesterday because I was studying and I decided to go live and kind of talk about what I was reading at the time. But they have some really great diagrams of the different things wherever they went, they're somewhere. But yeah, I think there we go. I think something I think this should be essential. I like your glasses.
Thanks, Trish.
I think something that should be essential for every dog owner is to learn about body language and how to read and understand what their dog is telling them. I think what I unfortunately see too often is dogs out in public who are very obviously uncomfortable in the situation that their owners have put them in. And so what I mean by this is like at like a happy hour during patio season or going to like a farmer's market and stuff like that. They're really dressing you up over there.
I know, I love it. And I laugh because Trish says I have a dirty dog.
Love it. Yeah, but anyway, so it's like I think there's also a lot of common misconception of kind of going back to what we were talking about before of people humanizing dog behaviors. And so it's like, oh look, my dog is like kissing me right now, but this is what we were talking about yesterday. It's like, oh, my dog is kissing me, but it's not an affection kiss, maybe it's an appeasement kiss, and it's trying to neutralize a stressful situation for them. And so it comes down to like just looking. I'm gonna hold this over for reference in case there's something I'm forgetting. But like I think like the top ones are looking for we call it whale eye. So when like if this is just like a dog's eye resting, when they get nervous, you can really see like the whites around their eyes. And so that is a sign of stress. Piloerection, which is when all of the hair on their back stands up, like right by their booty. When
Yeah.
that happens, when dogs smile or like when they're panting and the sides of their mouths are really tight. And then if their ears are like pinned back, and it's also just tail tuck, that's another obvious one. But it's looking at not just only these individual signals, but it's looking at the big picture of okay, the dog is cowering, tail tucked, ears back. Like you can't look at that and be like, oh yeah, this dog is fine. Um, so I think it's acknowledging and understanding what your dog is telling you. And also as an owner advocating for them and their comfort level and not putting them in situations that cause them stress.
Yeah. And like, for example, like Trish said here, that he's dirty because he doesn't put out signals. So is he like, are you saying that he's just like kind of like randomly will show you whether he's upset or not? But she also said he's very well behaved. And then Kimba and Friends is talking about how Kimba kisses him to wake up every morning, and I have something funny to add about that because I don't know if it's true or not, but this is what I read and I'll share that with you guys in a minute. And then yes, my dog's hair goes up when the little dogs bark at them. My dog's hair goes up when little dogs bark at them. They have a thing about, and because Kobe and Kylie think they're big dogs. I really do think that that's what they think because they've grown up around, bigger dogs. But little white fluffy dogs, I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter. It could be the nicest dogs. It doesn't matter. They have an aversion to white little fluffy dogs. But one of the things that like we were talking about, and I think this is what kind of prompted this conversation, is I had read somewhere, and again, I don't know how reputable the site is, but like it sounded pretty true. So the kissing or the licking is, what was it that you said it was again? It was like something specific to
Appeasement.
appeasement, yes. But also, so puppies, I guess, tend to do this because at some point in time in the evolution of wolf to dog or whatever, the wolf mom or the wolf puppy, whenever they were hungry, would kind of like lick the mom's face, and in turn that was like their signal of like, I'm hungry. So if they didn't have food again in the wild, so they would regurgitate in hopes that the mom would regurgitate food. So like sometimes, like I know Kobe does this to this day, and I know like he doesn't really lick me or lick my face unless he wants one of two things. It's if he's hungry and I'm like late for food, or if he has to go outside and go potty. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
those are usually the only time he really does that. But again, everything's unique to like, to it's their
Mm-hmm.
body language, just like you and I, but like I necessarily aren't always gonna exhibit signs of anxiety, unless it's like for certain situations, but the anxiety signs are still the same.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm just reading the comments. But yeah, I think the hair thing has always been a telltale sign for me as well. And it's easier to see them on like lighter colored dogs. The black dogs are kind of hard to see. Oh my gosh, Jen got bananaed. So we say bananaed because I guess some words are like no-nos on here. And it will cause you to get violations or something. So one of our friends, I think what is her username? It's like Dog Mom Jen, right? So I guess she got bananaed. I don't know what she did. Last time I checked, she was playing like video games or like games on her lives, and like getting people to participate, which that was really cool. But anyway, so anything you think you want to add to the whole body language thing, or does anyone have like specific questions about it? So I'm trying to like read and keep up.
That's okay. Well, I think something that like I think I want to add, kind of bouncing off of what you said of like they'll lick your face to like wake you up in the morning, something like that. So something else kind of going, also circling back to like the whole concept of positive reinforcement too, is that it's a lot of like trial and error and seeing what the consequences of performing a behavior are. And consequences don't necessarily have to be bad. They don't have to be bad at all. So like for example, if your dogs are, waking you up by licking your face, and the consequence of that is you waking up and feeding them or taking them out, like giving them what they want, that's reinforcing the behavior, and reinforcement is going to increase the likelihood of them performing that behavior. So I think it also goes into of like uh even when dogs have like that natural instinct, like let's talk about like digging for example. Dogs will dig by instinct, but it's really self-rewarding and reinforcing because they're having fun, all these smells are happening. So it's
Yeah.
like that consequence of like they are their environment, and they are reinforcing themselves.
No, that's a great, like, I've never even thought of that. Like, if I was a dog and I was like getting all these additional smells and like that sense of gratification, like, these are the things that like sometimes like I actually consider myself to be a really good communicator with my dog, especially Kobe, because I don't know. He's like, I've said this before. I don't play favorites, but Kobe's like my soul dog, and there's just like a different way that he and I communicate. Like my husband, I'll tell my husband like, oh, he wants this, and he's like, how do you know that? I'm like, I don't know. We're just like this. Like we just communicate, and I don't know how or why or whatever. But like, I'll be like, it's because he wants this, or he wants to go outside, and he's like, how? I'm like, I don't know. I just know. It's his body
Mhm.
language.
I
Kylie's
swear
still kind of
to,
young, so I'm not sure that she
yeah.
kind of does now too, but I'm
I
also attached to them all the time. So
Well, exactly. And that's the thing, is that like you spend so much time with your dog that I feel like you just like look at them and you're like, I know what you're thinking. I know what you want.
yeah.
Like, and as weird as that says, but sometimes Oliver and I just like look at each other and we're just like, let's go to Dunkin' and get a pup cup.
Yeah.
Like, like little stuff like that. But it's like, I think part of it too is that when you have had a dog for so long, you start to like understand your routine, but then like subconsciously you're looking at me because you want to go out, but then subconsciously you're like, oh, it's 5 o'clock, that's the time he goes out, so I know he wants to go out. But it's just like
Yeah.
funny how you pick up on those things, and you just like you said, it's like your soul dog connection, that you're like, all right, like we're one and the same.
Yeah. And and to like bridge it with like positive reinforcement training, like this is something like so I've done training. Kobe did puppy training. Kylie has not because she learned a lot just from picking up from Kobe, but Kobe did we did the whole puppy training thing. Like I paid for one-on-one training anyway. Like he's lived the best life. But where I was going with that is that like even though we did one-on-one training, a lot of it was like him and the trainer while at daycare. So it wasn't like I was always there. Like we'd have a weekly appointment where we do check-ins just to check progress, and the trainer would teach me how to like enforce things at home. But one of the things I had not witnessed was like that shaping. So like in all of my like having dogs, it's like okay, like teach them this cue and they're gonna do it. But like how to get there, like it made so much sense when we did the live last week. And for those of you that weren't on, we did something simple as place. And Kobe had done place before again with training, but we hadn't done it in I don't know how long. I never used a word, never. Like so M had me put like a towel down on the floor, and literally it was just like rewarding, okay, you have one paw down, two paws down, three paws down. And eventually like he would just look at me and wait like to see like okay, do I need to do something additional to get my reward? And eventually what was miraculous about that, or to me was like super cool to witness, is like he eventually knew that we went from what putting one paw down to all four paws down to like then he would just stand there and get rewarded, and eventually he knew to sit. And I would just look at him and then or look at the towel, and he eventually laid down, which Kobe is one of those dogs that like he has selective hearing. He knows what to do. He knows exactly what I want, but like it's optional, like sometimes it's optional for him. But in that time that he was like working, like he definitely just kind of new. And that communication piece was like so rewarding, not only to me, but also to him, because he saw that like, oh, I'm working for this and I'm getting a report for it. So that's shaping. And I never once used the word place or stay or anything like that. I mean, there was praise involved and obviously, you know, TREATS is involved, but there was never a cue utilized for that, which I thought was like super awesome to do and witness. And I don't know, like, I don't know what everyone's experiences with that. Trish, you have a ton of dogs and you've bred some dogs. So I know you've had dogs forever. And Kimba, I think he has a total of like 5 dogs with his family pack. And Bex with dogs. I don't know, how many dogs do you have? I can't remember. And I'm trying to see like who else is in here. Thank you, Kimba, for the gifts. One of the questions that we got in, which I thought was a wonderful idea, is so Jen, dog mom Jen, she had registered this event and I guess she got bananaed, but like she wants to know if we're going to download this and put it in our YouTube. So I think that's a great idea. I can definitely upload it to our YouTube video, and definitely that would be really fun to do. And I could do that for any future Q&As if you guys are interested in more.
Yeah, that's awesome. I totally forgot that you can like do that, and I just
Yeah.
created a YouTube channel for us a couple days ago. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll have to go on and upload this or something. So at least segments of it to it.
Absolutely. And Beck, it's okay. I was just asking. I don't recall how many dogs you have. I see 4 in your. Oh, Beck has 6 too. Oh, okay. So Kimba has 6 dogs, and I know you can't see our chat and who's in here, but these are usually some of our friends that we all kind of chat regularly. But I know Kimba has 3 and 3 others that are part of like your family pack, right? And like you guys all kind of hang out, and then Beck's Wolf Dogs has 6, and are they all shepherds? I can't tell from. I can't remember. But yeah, everyone, and at least in my chat on my side, has multiple dogs, which I think is also another topic that we can cover another day, like multi-pet training. Like when we try to do Kobe and Kylie, and again, this is virtual too, so it makes it even much more complex. Like we try to do Kobe and Kylie at the same time, and Kylie, well, Kylie wanted all the treats. Let's just put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kobe's like, whatever, have them, and he went to lay down.
Mm-hmm. I think something else too that we could, if we do another one of these and we talk about like multi-dog households, like we could also talk about like what you do when you live in a multi-dog household when the dogs don't get along, and like
Oh
what you can
yeah.
do to prevent like resource guarding issues and stuff like that. So definitely lots to unpack in a multi-dog household live.
Oh yes. So do you guys have like any questions? Anyone, and I can hop on over to your room M2 to see if there do you have any questions over there. But I'm on my other account just to like kind of help moderate. But do you guys have any specific questions for you have 5, Riley? That's right. I forgot you had 5. She has a really great story too, like with one of her latest one of her latest what was it? You found a dog. I can't remember the whole story, but I think there was a lost dog, and correct me if I'm wrong, really. There was a lost dog, and you tried to find the owner. You did, and they took him back, but you were like, you had already connected with the dog so much, and eventually the owners like ended up giving you the dog or something like that, right? If I recall that story, because I was like so moved by that. Good boy equals hound now. um, really has a viral video on IG. Oh, okay. Um, yeah, the story is really great. I'll have to find it and share it with them because it's such a I found it so touching. She was like, I think I heard it on a live, so I can't recall all the details about the
That's
story.
tough.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There's nothing harder than bonding with a dog and then having to give it up for whatever reason.
Yeah, but she ended up getting the dog. She ended up, I guess the owners realized too that there was like such a connection. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, Breely, or if anybody else knows the story differently. But from what I recall hearing about it on a random live is that like the owners realized that they had such a connection that she ended up getting the dog at the end. I don't know what the time frame in between that was, but I just thought that was really cool.
We love a good happy ending.
Right? But yeah, do you guys have any questions or anyone
Yeah,
on outside?
I'm an encyclopedia of knowledge, guys. I'm happy to answer
She really
literally
is.
any dog related thing. I'm like, all right, let's bust it out.
Is Connie still in here? I know she had some separation anxiety things um, that she wanted to talk about. And also, my friend couldn't make it, but I really have I have a friend who has a golden doodle puppy, and she is having a really hard time. Lots of energy. Titan likes to taste hands. How do I get him not to do that?
He likes to what? Taste hands.
Oh, like lick other people's hands or like, and then the other thing is picky dog eating suggestions.
Oh, hell yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay. So I got a lot on that second question, but I'll start with the first one. So, okay. So the first thing that I would want to ask you is what is like this context for your dog licking hands? Like is it a thing of like when you're eating and you have food? Is it just like all the time? Do you think it's like attention seeking? Because something that we were talking about in our last live is that before you can address the issues of how to change and modify a behavior, I specifically don't use the word correct because in positive reinforcement there isn't really correcting a behavior; it's modifying it and changing and redirecting to something that you do want. Um, but you have to pinpoint the motivation for it before you can alter the behavior itself. So because if your dog is like licking your hands because there's like yummy stuff on it, that's one thing. But if they're licking it because they're getting attention from it, and like I made a video about this regarding your dog jumping on you, and this is a very similar concept. So after this live, I would recommend going over and watching that video, and I explain this in that video as well. But something as simple as making eye contact with your dog can be reinforcing to them. And the example I often give clients is think about when a toddler is pulling on their parent's sleeve, trying to get them to look at them. Even when you look at them to tell them to knock it off, you're ultimately giving them what they're asking for. And it's the same things with dogs, except they don't understand the concept of no, stop that. Like they don't speak our language, so they don't know that. So like if your dog is licking your hand for attention and you're like even if you're like trying to like kind of push them away, or if you look at them, or like you like if especially this is what I see all the time with like people with dogs jumping on people is that if you say like off or down, you are verbally praising them because once again they don't speak our language, they don't know what you're saying. So it's just that thing of if your dog is licking your hands, you want to manage the environment so they can't practice the rehearsal of that behavior. And then redirect that energy and mark when they stop doing it. So, like, if your dog's licking your hands and you remove your hands and then they offer something like a sit, definitely like mark and reward that behavior and say, okay, like, you doing this other behavior is what gets you attention, not you licking my hand. So,
So I'm going to interrupt you for a quick second because she explained, I think, what she was meaning. So like, I guess she's saying if he came to my house, he will come to you and grab your hand with his mouth. He used to do this when people took off their shoes, but now it's the hand. So it's almost like a greeting kind of thing, Trish, if I'm reading that correctly. And also, I just wanted to add that Kimba said this is really cool and appreciate you two being so positive and willing to help others. So I just wanted to share that with you.
oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be
Um,
to do this. So
yeah.
everyone
Yeah.
wins.
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
yeah. Okay. Well, so in that context, then, what I would recommend is teaching what I call an incompatible behavior. So when someone enters your house, instead of letting your dog go up and greet them. This goes back to like the concept of managing their environment and the rehearsal of the behavior, is I would teach them an incompatible behavior like place. So when people are coming in, because also like looking at it in this context, I'm wondering if it's becoming more of a self-soothing thing and a displacement behavior, which is an out-of-context behavior that dogs perform when they are uncomfortable, or what we call they have big feelings and they don't know what to do with them. So it could be a displacement behavior, but depending on it's like one of those things too that it's really hard for me to give like specific training advice without seeing it happen, because every situation is different in the context and the motivation and all these other factors. But I would just kind of pay attention to like if it's more of a thing of like seeking attention or looking at the body language and seeing if your dog is doing it because they're uncomfortable. And then once again, if you're trying to manage it, I would definitely recommend teaching place and having your dog stay in a place when people are coming in, and not giving them that opportunity to rehearse their behavior of holding onto their hands.
And I wish Trish, I could just bring you on to like ask the like so you can explain. I think next time we'll have to figure out a way that like it becomes like I can add people in a box for questions, so it might be a little bit easier. But so I think that let me just go back to what she said. She says plays is hard. I've had with 3 I've tried, and that's kind of one of the things that I was working on the other day where I mentioned like we never even used a cue. And yes, I did have to put Kylie away and like separate them to do it effectively. So I can see the challenge again with multi-pets, and we can do a whole thing on that if you guys would like. And then really said, Tangi wakes me up with a paw to the face gently every morning. I find that kind of funny and cute. But I
Love
can
that.
also see how that might not be pleasant for other people. And then Trish also said Titan has come a long way. I think he does it because of baby River. So Trish has River and Shira. So like, and I think Titan's the dad, or is Titan the son? I can't remember. They know place or weight, but they are guard dogs. Yeah. So I wonder if what I'm saying is like, what is the motivation behind? Yeah, Titan's a dad. So I wonder too, like, so Titan is a dad, and then his baby is River or Shira? Because I know that I think she's had a litter. So I can't remember who the baby is. So I wonder if it's like a protection kind of thing. So River, yes, Titan's the dad, River's the baby, and then there's Shira. So like I wonder if it's like a like you said, an uncomfortable, like, are they feeling uncomfortable? That's how they cope with it.
Mm-hmm.
Titan and Shira made River. Thank you. I try to keep up, but like it's hard. But yes, Titan and Shira made River. So I wonder too, like he's the dad. He's like, I wonder if that's why he does it. And then what else? And then I interrupted you. So I don't know if you had anything else to say.
I don't think so.
Sorry.
I think that's all I've got on that without being able to see it in person.
And then I think they're anxious to hear about picky eaters.
All
I know
right.
That's your jam too.
All right, guys, we're taking a tour to my kitchen. All right. Okay. So let me move. I've got my like ring light right here and it's blinding me. Okay. So Oliver is a picky eater too, friends. So welcome to my kitchen where I show you the products that I use. So Oliver, when I first got him, and as I learned more about dogs, and this was a while ago, but we moved away from free feeding because a lot of dogs like lose value to food when you free feed, or they just don't eat consistently. So I actually have to, okay, where is it? All right, so Oliver is a picky eater, and this is where we started, and this he still loves to this day. Where is it? All right, guys, this is my like favorite dog mom life hack. Okay, So this is from Stella and Chewy's, and it is the magic dinner dust.
I
So,
love that stuff. Well, I used to before chicken allergies.
oh no, I think that's like the biggest thing is I feel so bad for dog owners who have dogs that have food much out there. But this is like my go-to recommendation for people when they say they have dogs that are picky eaters. This comes in 4 or 5 different flavors, but Oliver's favorite is the duck duck goose recipe. So he has this one, and then we also have soft canned food that we incorporate. He's like up now. He's like, I hear you in the kitchen. But we have some soft canned food that we use, pumpkin, boiled chicken, rice. Oh, let me show you. This is now you guys like have got me off.
So Titan has chicken allergies, but I think so. Stella and Chewy's is kind of pricey if you guys aren't familiar with their food. And I'm not sponsored by them in any way, shape, or form. But they do have they have a fish and cod one that stinks so bad. Like you can smell it in the other room, but Kobe and Kylie love it. There is a preservative, not a preservative in there, but what is it? Like some sort of, yeah, I mean, technically it is a preservative. It's not a bad preservative, but there's something in there that causes them to get an upset stomach. But the rest of my dogs tolerate it. So they do have different, they also have other, like what they call the novel proteins. Like I think they have venison and they have duck and they have what else? I tell it
They
to is a great
have,
line of food.
yeah,
Pricey.
one too, I think. And I will say, yes, this is expensive, but my big but, ha ha ha, is that I have had this for almost 4 months, like because you're adding very little at a time, so it will last you a good long time. But okay, so this is my newest food hack prep thing that I'm so freaking excited about. So I have started incorporating bone broth and goat's milk into Oliver's meals. And I got these cute little, and these are on my Amazon storefront if anyone's interested. But I got these cute little molds that I'm making Oliver's like goat's milk into these cute little like paw print ice cubes. And I thaw them as I go because another thing with goat's milk and bone broth is that it's only good for 7 days after you unthaw it. And Oliver's not going through that much stuff in 7 days. So he's got cute little beef broth dog paws. And then we have the dog paw ones, and then we also have these cute little like bone ones that we're also making little cubes out of. But this is like my current little guilty pleasure because it's also so satisfying to take them out of the molds. So, but yeah, I think especially too I think it's easier to find additives to put in your dog's food when you go to like a local pet store than if you're going to like Petco or PetSmart because there's just so much in there, it's overwhelming. But if you go in there and you ask them, there are a lot of great things to add into your dog's food to make it more delicious. And the last thing I'll say on this, because I could go on about this forever, is if dogs are more likely to want to eat something that is fragrant. So if you like the smellier, the better. And something else you can do is like warm up your food so that it's got like the aromas coming out of it. And that will work for some dogs. Also, mixing in water and hydrating it is also a really good way to get all the smells out.
And then someone asked about pugs specifically. Now, like to me, unless your dogs have allergies, I mean, a lot of that. So I try to replace 10% of my dog's meals, and that's just based on like things I've read and like, dog health and longevity studies that like say like all you really need to do is like exchange about 10% of your kibble and add like fresh foods and vegetables or whatever or proteins. So I do pumpkin on occasion. I do sweet potatoes. Like I'll just throw that in a crock pot. If you go back onto my TikTok, you'll see that I think there's one where I posted like how I do the like vegetable mash that I call it, but I add coconut oil and they love coconut oil. I once was stupid and I tried to add salmon oil and don't do that. It's an awful outcome. That magic stuff is wonderful. They have it in dust and they also have it as like treats. They have it, they these like little mini bites. And they also have for like the bigger dogs, they have like patties. So you can get like venison or duck patties. They have chicken patties. Sometimes you could get a mix. There's also, yeah, salmon oil and coconut oil. I will also occasionally, depending, because some big dogs are big on texture. Like Kobe and Kylie sometimes are not a huge fan on texture. Like bananas, they used to love, and all of a sudden they don't love them. But I do like I cut up in tiny little pieces because they are weird about like size of food. I do mango, I do like cucumbers, strawberries. Like I just try to add like any type of fresh fruits and vegetables that are safe for dogs that I like apples. Apples is a big one that they love, but some of those like fruits have a lot of sugar, so you have to be careful and like just do it in moderation. Unfortunately, like yeah, and then there's a thing about soft food, like right. So if you have older dogs, like and you're not good about brushing their teeth, you also have to be careful about how much soft food you give them, because then you know obviously have like the risk for like dental issues. But there's I agree, like I could go on about food and like I try not to focus too much on the kibble. Like I find a kibble that they like that they're not allergic to, and then I supplement everything with like all kinds of different stuff, and I vary it because this is how I came to. I used to make all of their food, but back in the day before Kobe had really severe allergies, because one day I was just like, would you want to eat dry cereal every day for the rest of your life? Like that's just the way I feel it. And again, Kobe and I like our soul. He's my soul dog, so it's a little bit different, but um I try to switch it up. Like I wouldn't want to eat the same thing every day. And I know if you have allergies and you have to give like prescription dog food, and I mean that's a whole different story. But like I definitely think that brands like Pedigree, you really have to be careful about what the ingredient is list. And there's like several videos, and I think we could definitely do something like more specific about this for another live. But reading the ingredients and how you um, like where in the ingredient list is the protein listed, and is it listed as a meal? Like so if it says like fish meal or if it says like chicken meal, like it's not actually the true protein source. So knowing what's in your dog food if you're just giving kibble like is really important too. And it might also help with like some of the pickiness, because sometimes dogs just aren't like if it's not, if it has a lot of preservatives and it has a lot of meal in it, like it doesn't it's not as aromatic, I think. Like the smells are just different. Like if you smell them, usually the more wholesome ingredients they have, the stinkier they are. Like so some of the Honest Kitchen, like cod and fish stuff, like it stinks so bad. Like you can smell it from a different room. But those are also great toppers. I think I learned it from Bear and Lola. If you guys follow them, and she actually makes this, it's almost like a got like a porridge that it looks like when she does the packets and you add like water, it looks like a porridge.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I can personally feed my dogs that every day, but it'd be good like to add as a topper. Cottage cheese I heard is really good as well. I think that, you know, those are good supplements that like even if you don't get a good kibble, that you can supplement with like all these other fresh fruits and vegetables and um proteins. That's what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm. Well, even like
Um
we're a Costco family, so like we have
yeah.
Kirkland dog food, but I totally agree with what you said. It's like if, as long as you have like a basis of like a base of a good dog food, you can make it into a billion different meals depending on what you add into it. So
Yep.
it's just to every,
Yeah.
because there are some dogs that are totally fine with it, just like eating their plain kibble. They're like pure garbage disposal dogs that they'll just eat it and they're happy to have food. But
Yeah.
you know, some dogs are picky, and some parents just want to spoil their kids.
Yeah. I mean, not going to mention any names here, but definitely that.
Right.
But yeah, Costco, I think Costco dog food, I believe it's made by Blue Buffalo. I can't remember who you know how like everything at Costco has like a brand that like actually like, for example, the vodka is actually like equivalent to, was it
Grey
Grey Goose or
Goose.
Kettle One?
Yep.
Yeah, something like that. Like, so like they all have like standard manufacturers and usually good quality ones that make their Kirkland brand stuff. So if you have Costco dog food, I think that's a great
Mm-hmm.
if you have small dogs or don't have that many dogs to buy Costco dog food, because one thing I learned with Kobe's allergies is that like storage mites are real and they live in like big bags of food if you're buying stuff in bulk and you only have like one dog. That also can cause some of the food aversions and you know, also like their dislike for them. Because if they're storage mites, like we can't smell it, we can't see it. It looks fine to us, but with their sense of smell being so heightened, I think that they could probably
Mm-hmm.
tell. Like I could definitely tell when like we're getting towards the end of the dog food because they're like, no, thanks, we don't want
Mm-hmm.
this.
Well, and something too I want to add while we're talking about storing dog food is that something that I feel like a lot of people don't know about is that like the storage containers that you buy to store your dog's food in, especially if they're plastic, if you store your dog's food in that and it's not still in the bag, the plastic is going to start to disintegrate and it's going to get this like biofilm on the food, which can make your dog really really sick. And so like I have a plastic food container, but I clean it out between every dog food change, and I also keep the dog food in the bag itself and just put the bag inside of the storage thing. So it's just like those
Yeah.
little things that I think um unfortunately capitalism, it's like, you know, that sound that's like capitalism really popped off today, that's just like
Yeah.
made things so easy, but so many dog owners don't know about like the little dangers of the convenience of these things.
And that's something I just learned really recently. So, like, as you know, you guys have, most of you know, Kobe's like allergy journey. And like, one of the things when we saw the dermatologist was like, where do you store the food? And I'm like, yeah, we clean it out, but do I clean it out in between every single bag? I didn't. I mean, I had 5 dogs. Like the last thing I was thinking about, but that biofilm is what is actually like storage mites. And at least Kobe's allergic to many bugs, like storage ants, like all the things. Like they are, he has like I think it's like a level 3 actually. So it's a significant allergy to mosquitoes, fleas, ticks, storage mites, and some other stuff. But um, those are the things that too like can cause them to like be picky. Like if you know it's not in the best like cat place. But I think you know if you're going to use the plastic storage containers. I started buying just because Kobe's so sensitive. Really, my other dogs have a storage container. We still use a plastic storage container. We just, you know, I'm just better about cleaning it in between versus how it's like, oh yeah, I should probably clean it. It's been a month or
Mm-hmm.
two, you know, like that, because that's how I was with it before. But I think that too helps too, like the fresher the food is, if you have a picky dog, like, and adding toppers. I have a 10-year-old pug who's a rescue, and I mean, she's a true garbage disposal for the most part. But when it comes to her dinner and like her breakfast and dinner, like she doesn't want just kibble. Like she needs her topper or she needs like something like whether it's like shredded cheese or something in there or like coconut oil or she won't eat it. She just won't. She won't eat for days either because when I'm not at home and my husband has them um yeah, like if nobody puts topper in their food, she won't eat for days. Insurance for your pup. That's a whole, I mean, so make
We'll have to
sure
get
that
in
when you
that on
get
another
insurance for
night.
your pup,
Ooh.
yeah, yeah, but
Yeah.
like just I have Pets Best as well, Trish, and just make sure that when you select a dog insurance that you look and compare every single plan. That's all I'm going to say about that today, but we can definitely talk about that another day.
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate you guys joining. I know Trish, you have to go, but we definitely are open to doing more of these. If you guys are interested, we will download this and we'll post it on our YouTube. Either I know I for sure have one. I don't know if yours is linked to your is yours linked to your TikTok?
I'll put it in my link tree after this
Yeah.
live. Yeah.
Yeah. Mine's like, I mean, all my usernames are the same. So if you just look up at Kobe and Kylie, and I will try and post it later today. They actually, so there's one site that has a comparison of all of them in a spreadsheet type form. It's like a table, and it compares the major commercial like pet insurances. And, we can do that. I can provide like some of that information. I think it's actually like Lemonade or one of those sites that has it. They're like a pet insurance brand. But yeah, we're happy to do these like at regular intervals. If you guys are interested in learning more, and maybe we can on another time we can do it so that like you guys can join in the box. I can figure out how to do that so that you guys can actually ask the questions. Because I know typing sometimes is hard, like to get you're limited in characters, like
There's a
you have to be
lag.
careful with certain words. There's
Mm-hmm.
a lag. But yeah. So thank you guys for joining. Is there anything else you want to share? And before we go, um,
Um, I don't think so. We did film a bunch of training videos today that we'll be releasing throughout the next few days, though. So if anyone's interested on any of those, follow us.
yeah. So I will download and post this up in the next like day or two. Um, and yeah, thank you guys for joining, and thank you everyone that gifted. And if you guys don't follow Em, make sure you go follow at Oliver the Good Boy. Um,
Follow
and
Kobe
we
and
will.
Kylie guys too. Follow
And
everyone.
yes, we will probably keep this on a Thursday cadence. We might change the times around a little bit so that different um, people can join. So we'll see. We'll send up we'll set an event for the next one. So thank you guys for joining. Have a great night. I hope to see you guys in a little bit. I'm sure you guys will all be live. Yeah, so my YouTube is on my TikTok page. Like, how you can add like your YouTube and your Instagram on there. So you should be able to just click on it. And if it doesn't work, let me know. I'll fix it. But thank you guys. Have a great night.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Okay, bye.
Bye.